Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into something pretty unique. We usually treat global economics, public policy, and personal virtues like they're living in totally different universes. But right now we're going to look at how deep personal virtues actually wire directly into global transformation. And we're doing it all through the contemplative poetry of Oluyomi Oladeji. It's this absolutely fascinating overlap of the deeply spiritual and the highly strategic. Let's just jump right in.
Faith conquers the day, obedience loves the way. We're starting right off with her striking opening lines, dropping us straight into the rhythmic philosophy she uses to break down human agency and development. It's got this rhythm that totally pulls you in, right? But listen, it's not just art for art's sake. She's actually using these poetic couplets to build a really structured step-by-step framework for human action.
Section 1. Meet Oluyomi Oladeji. So before we deconstruct her framework any further, we absolutely have to understand her background, because the deeply rooted spiritual worldview she brings to her work, that's the exact lens we need to view this entire poem through. She is a Nigerian thought leader, and she's incredibly focused on global development transformation and cranking out actionable policy solutions. So she isn't just writing poetry in a vacuum here. She's out there actively working to influence strategy and bring clarity on a massive macro-developmental level.
And she's super explicit about this, stating, "My Father God owns and rules the universe. He is the wheel within my wheels." Her drive to clarify and influence global strategy, it's 100% fueled by her profound reliance on her faith. For her, spirituality is literally the fundamental engine driving all her civic engagement and professional output.
Section 2. The Foundation of Faith.
See, for her, faith isn't just some passive belief system. It's a highly practical, kinetic tool for getting things done. Just look at the specific actions she tags to faith. It conquers the day, favors the lame, works the detail, takes the dictation, makes the well, and ultimately it solves a problem. In her view, faith is exceptionally active. It doesn't just sit back and cross its fingers. She writes that it rolls up its sleeves, it works the minute details, and it actually steps up to solve real-world problems.
Section 3. The Cost of Obedience.
Next, she naturally transitions into obedience, which she frames as the disciplined, measured path you've got to take to actually hit those grand solutions. If faith provides the vision, obedience is what lays down the tracks. Notice how she uses these words of careful, almost logistical strategy. She says it loves the way, counts the cost, minds the little things, learns the yoke, gets a just reward, and relies on a map. She's painting this picture of obedience not as blind submission, no way, but as a calculated, deliberate discipline when you're facing down complex challenges. And if we put these two side by side, she brilliantly illustrates their dynamic relationship. While faith is the driving force that, as she puts it, solves a problem, obedience is the practical tool that uses a map to actually get you there. So one gives you the necessary destination, and the other one safely navigates the terrain.
Section 4. The Grace of Gratitude.
The third virtue she explores is gratitude. But she doesn't just treat it like a polite thank you at the end of a transaction. Instead, she frames it as this essential internal posture for individuals and active citizens. Gratitude cleans the mind. This is such a powerful standalone statement in her framework. She puts massive, impactful emphasis on its clarifying power, arguing that it fundamentally cleans the mind before any meaningful action is taken. I mean, you can't navigate if your windshield is totally dirty, right? Gratitude, in her framework, acts as the wiper blades.
And from that clean mind, look at what becomes possible. She notes that gratitude empowers us to run the race, act the part, be swift to hear others, and ultimately unite with peace and spring with hope. So a clean mind isn't an empty mind, right? It's a mind completely primed for positive, forward momentum, collaboration, and unity.
Section 5. The Truth of Agency.
Her final pillar is agency, and she ties this directly back to a reliance on higher truth, rather than just some unchecked, selfish individualism. True agency, in her eyes, is incredibly grounded. Let's look at the nature of agency according to the poem. It trusts the Most High, clings to truth, grows in grace, is slow to speak, follows the life, and, this is a big one, thinks through history. She's suggesting that true agency requires deep reflection. Her version of an agent isn't rash or reactionary. She clings to truth, she is deliberately slow to speak, and carefully thinks through history before making a move.
This matrix brilliantly illustrates the complete picture. We can see the culmination of all four virtues right side by side. Faith solves a problem, obedience uses a map, gratitude springs with hope, and agency thinks through history.
You can see exactly how she systematically builds from internal spiritual inspiration directly to grounded, historical, and highly strategic action.
Section 6. Agents, Citizens, and Peace.
Now, let's explore her micro to macro arc, because this is where we see how she beautifully applies these internal spiritual virtues to the external world of civic duty and economic life. We really got to ask the fundamental question here. How do these internal virtues actually shape our global society? Like, how does she connect this highly personal, contemplative poetry to her professional focus on generating solutions for global development? Let's check out the very end of her poem for the answer.
Economic agents can choose to believe. She wraps up her poem by bringing it directly into the marketplace. She's reminding us that economic agents, the folks making the big financial, corporate, and policy decisions every single day, they always maintain the agency to choose belief. The global economy isn't just some faceless machine. It's made of human beings making human choices.
Grateful citizens can opt for peace. And here is the crucial point. She insists that it is precisely these grateful citizens, the ones who have, like she noted earlier, cleaned their minds, who have the actual power to opt for peace. It's a massive, macro-level choice, but it's rooted entirely in those micro-level virtues we were just unpacking.
Her contemplation leaves us with a pretty profound realization. The massive global transformation she's seeking, it doesn't simply start in a boardroom, a think tank, or a UN assembly. It begins entirely with the individual, spiritual choices you and I make every single day. So, as you step out into the world today equipped with your own agency, what map will you choose to use?